Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a journey that will forever change the way you look at the solid world around you. Today, we are stepping into the most famous and unsettling experiment in the history of science, the Double Slit Experiment. If you have ever felt like a victim of your circumstances, or that life is something that just happens to you, prepare to be liberated. Science has already proven in the laboratory what the ancient masters always knew, that reality is not fixed until you decide to look at it. We are going to decode how your attention is literally the architect of your physical world. In my own life, before I understood these quantum principles, I used to feel like I was fighting against a wall of solid problems, whether it was the stress of a career that no longer fit who I was, or the constant anxiety about my financial future. I felt like the matter of my life was unchangeable. But when I discovered the observer effect, everything shifted. I realized that my problems stayed solid only because I was constantly observing them with the same eyes of fear and judgment every single day. The moment I changed my gaze, the atoms of my reality were forced to rearrange. In this video, we are going to explore why a tiny particle, like an electron, behaves like a wave of infinite possibilities when it's not being watched, but instantly collapses into a solid piece of matter the moment a witness appears. This is not just physics. This is the source code of the law of attraction. If you are ready to stop being a passive observer and start commanding the matrix with your focus, I want you to write our packed phrase in the comments: I collapse my new reality. I'm Caroline, and I've spent years applying these physics of miracles to transform my own path from uncertainty to absolute sovereignty. Subscribe now to join our community of sovereign initiates, and don't forget that the links to the essential books and the free PDF guide on mirror hours are waiting for you in the description below. Are you ready to see the world as a wave of possibilities instead of a wall of problems? Let's dive into the mystery of the double slit. The mystery of the double slit, the end of materialism. To understand how miracles are physically possible, we must first dismantle the biggest lie we've been told, that the world is made of solid, unchangeable stuff. For centuries, Newtonian physics convinced us that the universe is a giant clockwork machine, and we are just tiny cogs within it. But in the early 20th century, a simple experiment shattered this illusion forever. This is the double slit experiment, and it serves as the ultimate bridge between the laboratory and the law of attraction. As I sat with these findings during my own period of transition, when I was trying to make sense of why my life felt so stuck, I realized that I wasn't fighting matter, I was fighting my own ignorance of how matter actually behaves. Imagine a wall with two vertical slits. In the classic version of this experiment, scientists first used macro objects. Think of them as tiny marbles or paintballs. When you fire these marbles at the slits, they behave exactly as you'd expect. Some hit the wall and some go through the slits, forming two straight lines on a backstop. This is the world of classical physics. It's predictable, it's solid, and it's limited. This is how most people view their bank accounts, their health, and their careers. They see them as marbles, fixed objects that follow rigid rules. If you don't have the money today, you won't have it tomorrow unless you physically move more marbles. But the universe doesn't actually work this way at the foundational level. The mystery began when scientists decided to fire quantum objects, like electrons, at those same two slits. An electron is a subatomic particle, a building block of what we call reality. Logically, the scientists expected the electrons to act like tiny marbles and form two lines on the backstop, but that is not what happened. Instead, the electrons formed an interference pattern, a series of many vertical stripes. In physics, this pattern is the unmistakable signature of a wave. It's the same pattern you see when two waves of water meet each other. They interfere with each other, creating peaks and valleys. This was the moment science broke. How could a particle, a solid piece of matter, behave like a wave? It was as if the electron traveled through both slits at the same time, interfered with itself, and landed on the backstop as a wave of potential. As I reflected on this, I had a massive realization about my own path. During those years when I felt stuck in a career that felt like a prison, I was treating my life as if it were a particle. I thought it was a solid, singular thing that I had to push and shove. But the double slit proves that at our core, we are not particles. We are waves of possibility. This means that before you observe your life, your future is not one single line. It is a field of infinite stripes on the backstop. There is a stripe where you are abundantly wealthy, a stripe where you are struggling, and a stripe where you are at total peace. All of these versions of you exist simultaneously as a probability wave. The only reason we keep experiencing the same solid struggle is because we've been trained to only see one line. We've been conditioned to look at the dry desert of our current circumstances and assume that is the only thing that exists. But the experiment shows us that the electron only behaves like a wave when it is unobserved. This is the technical golden key. When the scientists weren't trying to catch the electron in the act, it stayed in its natural state, a wave of infinite potential. But the moment they placed a measuring device at the slits to see which slit the electron actually went through, something staggering happened. The electron knew it was being watched. The moment it was observed, it stopped acting like a wave and suddenly collapsed into a solid particle, forming the two simple lines of marbles again. This is called the collapse of the wave function. In my journey, I discovered that I was the measuring device that was keeping my problems solid. By constantly measuring my lack, checking my bank account with fear, measuring my progress with judgment, comparing my life to others, I was forcing the infinite wave of my potential to collapse into the same boring, limited particle of stagnation. I was literally observing my problems into existence. The double slit experiment proves that the act of looking is a creative act. You are not just seeing reality, you are precipitating it. To reach the depth of this mystery, we have to ask, what is the wave made of? In quantum mechanics, we call it the wave function. This wave doesn't consist of matter, it consists of information and probability. It is a mathematical expression of everything that could happen. This means that right now, in the room where you are sitting, there is a wave of information that contains your highest possible life. It is vibrating right there with you, but it remains a wave until you provide the specific gaze that collapses it into matter. Most people are terrified by this because it places the responsibility of creation squarely on their shoulders. It's much easier to believe that life is hard or that the economy is bad than to realize that you are the one collapsing the economy of your own life through your observation. During my career transition, I had to learn how to stop measuring the old reality. I had to learn how to let the electron of my life stay in its wave state of infinite potential until I was ready to collapse the version I actually wanted. I had to stop being a marble pusher and start being a wave master. Braden and other pioneers of this physics of miracles point out that the universe is essentially a participatory universe. We are not spectators watching a movie. We are the directors who decide which frame of the movie becomes real. The mystery of the double slit is the ultimate proof of our divine inheritance. It tells us that the walls we see are not walls at all. They are just waves waiting for a command. When you understand this, you stop praying for a miracle and you start collapsing one. You realize that the miracle is just the natural state of the wave when it is directed by a sovereign observer. Think about the implications for your daily life. Every time you wake up and immediately think about your to-do list or your problems, you are placing your measuring device at the slits of your day. You are telling the matrix, I expect today to be a series of solid, heavy marbles. And the matrix, being a perfect mirror of your observation, collapses the wave of your day into exactly that. But what if you didn't measure it? What if you allowed the day to remain a wave of infinite possibilities until you consciously chose to collapse the moment of Assup, already done? In the next block, we are going to dive deeper into the power of the observer. We will look at how your specific judgment and expectation act as the measuring devices that lock your reality into place. We will explore how to withdraw the gaze from the things you don't want so they can return to the state of waves and finally be reshaped into the life you deserve. The power of the observer, judgment as the quantum anchor. The most disturbing and revolutionary part of the double slit experiment isn't just that electrons behave like waves, it's the fact that they know they are being watched. This is known as the observer effect, and it is the technical foundation of how we either lock ourselves in a prison of lack or release ourselves into a field of abundance. When the researchers placed a detection device at the slits, the electron stopped its interference and acted like a solid particle. This means that the mere presence of a conscious witness, or even a mechanical extension of that witness, changes the physical behavior of reality. This is where we must stop and analyze, what are you doing with your witness every single day? In the realm of the law of attraction, your measuring device is your judgment. Every time you look at your current life and label it as hard, empty, or failing, you are placing a quantum sensor on your reality. You are forcing the infinite wave of your potential to collapse into a solid particle of failure. During my transition, I had a period where I was obsessed with the facts. I was measuring my results every hour. I was observing the lack of clients, the lack of money, and the lack of clarity. I didn't realize that my very act of measuring was what was keeping the lack in place. I was the scientist in the lab, staring so hard at the electron that I was preventing it from ever being a wave of miracle. I want to ask you a serious question, and I want you to be very present with the answer. What part of your life are you staring at so hard with fear that you aren't allowing it to change? Is it your health, your bank account, a broken heart? If you are ready to take your eyes off the problem and allow the wave of a miracle to form, type "I am the observer" in the comments. Let's claim our role as creators right now. This is the technical secret that the masters have always hinted at. The matrix only responds to a clear gaze. If your gaze is cluttered with judgment, the matrix reflects that clutter. Braden and other quantum pioneers explain that judgment is a form of quantum entanglement. When you judge something, you become one with it in a state of resistance. You are anchoring that version of reality. In the lab, the moment the observer was removed, the electron immediately returned to its wave state. It went back to being everything and everywhere at once. This tells us that if you want a situation in your life to change, you must first stop observing it as it currently is. You must achieve a state of quantum neutrality. I learned that to change my career and my financial frequency, I had to stop measuring my current bank account as the truth. I had to start viewing it as a temporary particle that only stayed there because I kept looking at it. I began a practice of withdrawing the gaze. I stopped checking the numbers that triggered my fear. I stopped talking about the struggle. By removing the sensor, I allowed the wave of my life to return to its natural state of infinite possibility. Only then could I provide a new observation, one of gratitude and Assup, already done, to collapse a different version of reality. This is why the Gospel of Thomas says, "When you make the two one, you will say to the mountain, 'Move,' and it will move." To make the two one means to align your observation with your desire so perfectly that there is no measuring device of doubt in between. If you are observing your life from a place of wanting, you are separate. You are the observer looking at a particle that is not there. But when you observe from the heart, in a state of coherence, you are no longer measuring the lack. You are witnessing the presence of the solution. The physics here is undeniable. Your expectation is a command to the field. In another variation of the experiment called the delayed choice, scientists showed that the observer can even change what happened in the past by how they observe in the present. This is mind-blowing. It suggests that your current sovereign gaze can actually heal the trauma of your past and reorganize your timeline. When I stopped judging my past failures as mistakes and started observing them as necessary wave patterns for my current growth, the physical weight of those failures vanished. My timeline literally reorganized itself. You must understand that the matrix is not a cold, dead machine. It is a responsive mirror. It is waiting for you to decide what you want to see. Most people use their gaze like a flashlight in a dark room, only pointing it at the dust and the trash. Then they wonder why their life feels dirty. As a sovereign initiate, you must learn to point your gaze only at the stripes of the wave that represent your highest potential. You must be disciplined. You must be willing to ignore the solid evidence of your five senses if that evidence doesn't match your vision. Braden calls this feeling as the prayer. Your feeling is the most powerful measuring device you have. If you feel wealthy, you are observing a reality of wealth, and the field has no choice but to collapse that wave. If you feel broken, you are observing a reality of being broken, and the field will faithfully keep you in pieces. This is the power of the observer. You are not a victim of the double slit of life. You are the one firing the electrons and deciding which pattern will appear on the backstop. In my journey, the checkmate move was realizing that I didn't need to work harder to change the matter. I needed to observe differently to allow the matter to change itself. I moved from the stress of the marble pusher to the peace of the wave master. And this is what I want for you. In the next block, we are going to explore the infinite field of possibilities. We will look at how to navigate the wave function to find the specific version of your life that is already vibrating with success, and how to lock your gaze onto it until it becomes your only physical reality. Infinite possibilities and the quantum field. Navigating the wave function. The true magic of the double slit experiment lies in what happens before the observation. When the electron is in its wave state, it exists in what physicists call a superposition. This is not just a fancy word, it is the technical proof of infinite possibilities. In a state of superposition, the electron is not here or there, it is everywhere at once. It is a cloud of potential. As I began to apply this to my own reality, particularly when I was at the crossroads of leaving my old life behind, I realized that the Caroline who was struggling was just one possible particle in a vast, infinite wave of Carolines. There was a version of me already thriving, already at peace, and already abundant. She wasn't a dream, she was a wave function waiting for my alignment. To understand how to choose your reality, you must first understand the nature of the quantum field. This field is an invisible web of energy that contains the blueprints for every possible outcome of your life. Every choice you haven't made yet, every dream you haven't realized, and every fear you haven't faced exists as a specific frequency in this field. When scientists look at the interference pattern in the double slit, they are seeing the physical evidence of these multiple paths. The electron is literally exploring all available routes simultaneously. This is exactly what your life is doing right now. You are not stuck on a single track. You are swimming in a sea of potential tracks. In my journey, the shift happened when I stopped trying to create a new life and started selecting one that already existed in the field. This is a crucial distinction. When you try to create, you often act from a place of lack, from the feeling that something is missing. But when you understand the physics of miracles, you know that nothing is missing. The abundant you is already a wave in the field. The only reason you aren't experiencing her is that you are still vibrating at the frequency of the struggling you. You are still collapsing the wave into the same old particle. I had to learn how to uncollapse my current reality by moving my attention away from the solid evidence of my problems and into the fluid state of the quantum field. This process requires mastering what Dr. Gregg Braden and other pioneers call the quantum leap. A quantum leap is not a slow, gradual walk from point A to point B. In physics, an electron moves from one energy level to another without ever passing through the space in between. It simply vanishes from one orbit and reappears in another. This is exactly how my career and financial transformation felt once I mastered this technology. It wasn't a slow climb, it was a sudden shift in my state of being that caused my external world to rematerialize in a completely different way. I had to stop being the marble that rolls slowly and start being the electron that leaps. To achieve this leap, you must learn to interact with the wave function through your imagination and your heart. Your imagination is not just a place for daydreaming, it is your quantum interface. When you visualize your desire with deep emotional intensity, you are scanning the field of infinite possibilities and tagging the specific wave you want to collapse. You are telling the matrix, this is the coordinate I am choosing. But the visualization is only half the work. The lock that holds the new reality in place is your feeling. As we discussed with the DNA experiments, your heart produces the magnetic field that pulls that possibility out of the wave state into the particle state. During my most challenging days, I would sit in silence and practice wave navigation. I would close my eyes and consciously detach from the room I was in, the bills I had to pay, and the labels people had given me. I would enter the void, that space of no-thingness where all possibilities exist. In that space, I would find the frequency of the life I wanted. I would feel the relief of it. I would feel the sovereignty of it. I wasn't hoping it would come, I was entangling myself with it. I was making my internal world more real than my external world. This is how you speak the language of the field. The field doesn't care about your hard work, it only cares about your vibrational match. One of the biggest obstacles I had to overcome, and one that might be holding you back, is the delay in the matrix. Because our physical world is dense, there is often a time gap between the moment you change your observation and the moment the marbles of your life rearrange themselves. Most people give up during this gap. They look at the backstop of the double slit and say, I still see the same old lines. This doesn't work. But the science tells us that the moment you change your gaze, the wave has to respond. The interference pattern is already changing behind the scenes. Your job is to stay in the state of Assup, already done, until the density of the 3D world catches up to your new frequency. Think of it like a radio. If you want to hear jazz, you don't stay tuned to a rock station and pray for the music to change. You turn the dial. Your gaze and your feeling are the dial. If you are focused on the possibility of wealth, you must stay tuned to that frequency even when the rock station of debt is still playing in your ears. Eventually, the signal of your new observation becomes so strong that the old reality simply fades out. This is not a metaphor, it is the resonance principle in action. You are literally vibrating the atoms of your life into a new configuration. According to the teachings we are modeling, the universe is infinitely plastic. It is moldable. It is waiting for a sovereign observer to give it a command. The mystery of the double slit is a call to take back your power. It's an invitation to stop living in a world of fixed particles and start living in a world of infinite waves. In my own life, once I embraced this, I stopped being afraid of what might happen and started being excited about what I will collapse next. I realized that the only limit to my reality was the limit of my own observation. As you move through your day, start seeing everyone and everything around you as a wave. When you look at your bank account, see it as a wave that is currently collapsed in one way, but could easily collapse into abundance the moment you change your frequency. When you look at a difficult person, see them as a wave of potential that could collapse into harmony. You are the director, you are the witness, you are the one who decides which of the infinite possibilities becomes your truth. In the next block, we are going to look at the practical application of this. We will discuss the sovereign gaze and how to use your daily routine to stay in the wave state of your highest potential. We will close this video with a protocol that will help you maintain your quantum focus so you can finally see the miracles manifesting in your physical backstop. The sovereign gaze, the practical protocol of collapse. We have reached the culmination of our journey into the physics of miracles. By now, you understand that you are not a victim of a solid, rigid world. You are the quantum observer who commands the particles of your life through the quality of your attention. But the question remains, how do you maintain this sovereign gaze when the world is constantly trying to force you to look at the same old marbles? This is the final and most critical part of the double slit protocol. It is the difference between someone who understands the theory and someone who actually transforms their bank account, their body, and their destiny. In my own life, I had to develop what I call quantum discipline. I realized that if I spent 10 minutes in the morning visualizing a new reality, but spent the rest of the day measuring my current problems with eyes of worry, I was technically choosing to collapse the problem particle over and over again. To change my life, I had to become the guardian of my gaze. I had to stop being a passive witness to my circumstances and start being an active architect. This means that even when the 3D world shows you lack, you must have the internal authority to say, that is just a past collapse. I am now observing a new wave. The technical key to this is withdrawing the sensor. Remember, in the experiment, the electron only returned to its state of infinite possibilities when the measuring device was removed. In your life, your measuring device is your constant need to check, verify, and react to the physical evidence of your problems. If you are constantly checking your bank account with anxiety, you are measuring it into staying small. If you are constantly checking your body for symptoms of illness with fear, you are measuring the illness into staying solid. To allow a miracle to form, you must have the courage to look away from the shadow and look into the light of the potential. I practiced this during my career transition by creating a sanctuary of the wave. For a few hours every day, I would intentionally ignore the solid facts of my reality. I wouldn't check emails, I wouldn't look at bills, and I wouldn't talk to people who reinforced my old identity. During that time, I was allowing the wave function of my new life to build momentum. I was staying in the silence of the unobserved state where all things are possible. Then, from that state of silence, I would consciously choose the stripe of the interference pattern that I wanted to inhabit. I would feel the gratitude of Assup, already done, until that feeling became more solid to me than the walls of my room. This is what Dr. Greg Braden refers to as the feeling is the prayer. Your feeling is the coordinate you are sending into the divine matrix. If you can maintain the feeling of abundance while looking at a dry desert, you are forcing the matrix to collapse the rain. You are overriding the mechanical laws of the marble world with the sovereign laws of the wave world. This isn't just faking it until you make it. It is a technical command to the subatomic particles that make up your physical experience. You are literally telling the electrons where to land on the backstop of your life. As you go about your day, I want you to start using the sovereign gaze protocol. When you encounter a challenge, don't react. Reacting is a form of measurement that locks the problem in place. Instead, take a breath, move into heart coherence, and remember the double slit. Remind yourself, this problem is only solid because I am observing it as such. I now withdraw my gaze. I return this situation to the state of the wave. By doing this, you are unlocking the reality. You are giving the universe the quantum permission to reorganize the atoms into a better configuration. This is the path of the sovereign initiate. It is the path of taking full responsibility for what you are collapsing every second of every day. It requires a level of awareness that most people never achieve, but the reward is total freedom. You stop being a person who is lucky or unlucky, and you become the one who understands the physics of miracles. You become the one who knows that behind every wall of matter, there is a wave of infinite light waiting for your command. I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for staying with us until the very end of this video. To explore the double slit experiment is to look into the very eyes of the Creator, and I am honored to share this scientific and spiritual journey with you. Your presence and your willingness to expand your consciousness are what make this channel a beacon of light in the matrix. If this information has resonated with your soul, please subscribe to the channel. Your subscription is a powerful way to help us reach more people and build our critical mass of observers who are choosing a better world. By joining us, you are helping this channel grow and ensuring that these lost truths are never forgotten again. I have left all the links to the books we discussed and the free material in the description below, so you can continue your study and master your sovereign gaze. Thank you for being here, for watching, and for being part of this community. I am truly grateful for our time together. I look forward to seeing you in our next video, where we will continue to crack the code of reality.